Welcome to the Glamping Guy Podcast, episode 8.
I like businesses that make sense. If I talk to my nephew or my niece and I say, this is my business, and they ever have to ask me, so how do you make money? Nah, I'm good. If you have to say, well, then I leveraged this and then did that and I did that. For me personally, I just like things that are very easy and straightforward, just because I think, as you said, they're easy to get in, they're easy to get out of, they're easy to maneuver. So yeah, just be fearful and mindful of not building up a jail cell for yourself.
Right. I'm Chris Jeub, the Glamping Guy, and today we are diving into the world of glamping simplicity with my guest, Jamie Esperance. Jamie has created a successful and straightforward glamping setup with a cozy Aframe cabin built from a mail-order kit, truly one of a kind. While we've interviewed some big shots in the glamping world these first podcasts, Jamie is taking a very simple approach that sets him apart. His podcast, Keep It Tiny, has over 30,000 followers, and I've had the honor of being a guest on his show. Jamie doesn't see his journey as leaving the corporate world, but as keeping his entrepreneurial ambitions alive, building unique experiences like his new Wynne Social Club. Today we'll talk about his journey, why simplicity works, and what it means to create an unforgettable guest experience. Let's get into it with Jamie Esperance. Welcome to the Glamping Guy Podcast, Jamie, one of my first guests.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, we know each other way back, and I was looking it up, preparing for this podcast, that I was on your podcast March of 2023 when my Glamping Guy idea was just taking shape, because I had a good story to share, and I wanted to encourage other people to go ahead and jump into glamping. And you were kind enough to have me on your highly successful podcast. I have you were actually one of 2 podcasts out there. So I was very honored to be on it, and because people were just starting to talk about glamping back then and getting some traction in what I call the sexiest asset class in real estate. And now the tables are going to kind of turn here, because I've got the Glamping Guy podcast and my courses and my mastermind group and things like that. I'm really helping glamping operators build safe, legal, and profitable glamping operations. And I was able to tell my story on your podcast. Now you get to tell your story on my podcast. How cool is that?
Yes. Yeah. I'm an open book, and I love the fact that it seems like a lot of people in the glamping community right now are open and honest and willing to share their stories, and not just the sexy parts, but when the lawman knocks on their door, like what happened with you. And, for me, just punching fear in the mouth, quitting my job, buying land, and doing whatever the hell I'm up to. I just love the fact that everyone's sharing information, and I hope that remains within the glamping community as it grows larger.
Yeah, it is a very transparent group, isn't it? I mean, I love the glamping community. Well, okay, let's start from the beginning here, Jamie. Tell me about yourself. Who are you, and what do you contribute to the glamping world?
Wow, you would think after like 38,000 subscribers, I would have an elevator pitch ready, but I don't. My name is Jay Esperance. I was originally director of marketing, working in tech jobs. Throughout my time there, I just really disliked it. And my North Star was really just focused on saving my money, doing something for myself. And I never knew what that was going to be. But growing up, my father was an entrepreneur. I never saw with my own 2 eyes my dad get up, get dressed, and go work for somebody else. So I knew that it was in my future sooner or later. And while I was working at tech, I just was saving up as much money as I could. And I bought a piece of land in upstate New York. And then me and a couple of buddies built a cabin on it. And I accidentally started a glamping business. And that has led me to what I'm up to today, which is some more, traditional real estate ventures and plays. But it really was just like, it unlocked everything. Me purchasing that land and just ripping off the Band-Aid and just falling flat on my face and figuring things out. But yeah,
what year was that?
How
long ago was that? What year?
It was right before the pandemic. So I started looking for land before the pandemic, and we closed on the land, in the height of it all. So yeah, that's when that started.
Yeah, that's similar to my journey. I started in 2019, And that's actually, I've interviewed a half dozen people so far. I think you're going to be episode number 9 or something like that, and maybe 8. But anyway, all of them really got going during the pandemic. And now let's go.
Yeah.
Let's rewind all the way back there. So you had. Let's talk about that first vision that you had. We're talking 2018, 2019. You probably were thinking about buying that property. What was culminating in that moment, and what were you trying to what bandwagon were you trying to get on at that moment?
Yeah. So for me, I had the vision even prior to that. Leaving college, I knew I was the type of person who was going to just work their tail off. So I knew going into like the professional world that I was just gonna, dive all in. And I said to myself, I need like a North Star. So my whole goal of working every late night, every time a manager, a senior VP, or some new startup guy who just got $1 million in funding and thought he was the biggest thing in the world would talk to me or whatever, I just knew like, it doesn't matter. You're just buying your time. And I was like always just thinking I wanted to buy land and build a cabin so it could be my oasis for me to relax there. What I didn't know is how I was going to do it, what was going to happen. And then at the time, I wasn't thinking about taxes. I wasn't thinking about any of the legalities. So that's kind of how it all started. And then one day, I don't know, probably in the shower on a run, I thought to myself, well, what am I going to do with this space when I'm not there? And that's, boom, changed my life. Like that idea, before the term glamping was even here in the States, it was just like, well, when I'm not there, maybe I could rent it out. And then it's just continued to
snowball. More like the
Airbnb.
I remember back that I wanted a piece of the Airbnb action and trying to figure out how to get into it. Were you kind of the same way? Your buddies were making money off of real estate. Why aren't you?
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, a lot of like, oh, well, I could do an Airbnb play here. And then also, I think around the exact same time, I accidentally started an Airbnb in New York City just because I had an apartment in Harlem and the landlord was terrible and the water was leaking and all of that annoyingness. And I told him like, hey, can you fix it? He was just like, no. So then I decided just noticed that they were never around. They were never there. And by the way, this isn't legal advice and it's probably not legal. And I said to myself,
probably broke your lease arrangement, didn't you?
Well, the way I see it, he broke my lease arrangement by not assisting. So I was just like, look, they're never around. They're unhelpful. Me and a couple of buddies fixed all of the issues within the unit and I got a new lease and I put that on Airbnb. And this was maybe like 2-3 years before I bought the land. So that was my first taste of the Airbnb short-term rental aspect of it all. And that's kind of where I realized, like, for me, I believe it's all about setting up processes and having things run smoothly as smoothly as possible. So that's when I realized, like, oh, okay. And then years later, when I bought the land, I said, well, okay, if I'm not there, maybe I could do that Airbnb thing that I did for a little bit on the land. So that's kind of how it went.
So you arbitraged your rental. That's called arbitrage, right? Where you rented out what you were renting already and started making that money. And then that led to, well, let's talk about that property upstate New York that you bought a piece of property. How big was the property? And what was on it? Were the houses on it or what? Just explain it.
I bought 3 acres or 3.5 acres of overgrown land. There was a small swamp in the middle of it. And there seemed to be a man-made like plateau in the back. Prior to that, my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, and we were driving upstate from New York City every weekend, just destroying my Mini Cooper back and forth and looking at as much property as possible. So that's kind of how, when I found that piece of land, I knew it was the one. And that's also something that I always tell people. When you are buying a car, do you buy the first car that you look at? Or do you do as much research as possible, see as many as you can? Yeah. So I think in person, I looked at about maybe 12, 15 pieces of land with my own boots, my own eyes. At the time, I would always keep a pair of boots in the backseat of my car so I could always walk around. Because I mean, like, I'm not pulling up, on the side of the road and just looking with my eyes. I remember a lot of the real estate people that were like walking the land with me. I was like, oh no, I'm going in there. So they're like, okay, it's overran. I'm like, I'm going in there. I stepped on a lot of animal poop, but it was worth it. So by the time that I saw the piece of land that I wanted to purchase, I knew. I was like, boom, I got it. The cabin's going to go up there. We're going to knock this down. This is the one. So to be honest, I really only put in an offer on one piece of land just because I knew that was the one.
And the rates the rates at the time were excellent. So you like everyone else in the world were looking around for real estate and trying to figure it out. Is it close to stuff? I mean, is it a destination place, or what's the surrounding area? But like,
yeah, so I'm a little weird. I don't like putting the exact location out there, but there are colleges. There's like really big destinations, but they all are about 30 to 40 minutes away. So I believe that with glamping businesses, you either need to be in a hotbed or you need to make your location the destination. So either people are coming to the area to look at other things, or they're coming to the area because you have a sauna. I know that sometimes you allow guests to rent out a hot tub situation and things of that nature. So
you're the latter. So you made yourself a destination. So you're kind of out in the boonies, a good half hour away from anything that's really someone can't get in their car and just go to something, like go to a restaurant or something. They have to actually travel, or they're there to stay.
Yeah. Most people that stay on my glamp site are there to just hang out on my glamp site. They might get there, they might grab some things, but they normally are staying on my glamp site. But on the flip side of that, there are like people who are a little bit more adventurous. There's things to get to if you want to do that. So because what I didn't want is to be too far out in the boonies. It's like the Goldilocks zone, you know? You don't want to be in the middle of a town with your glamp site. They don't want that. They don't want to see a bunch of cars passing by while, they're there. But at the same time, they don't want to be out too far away. Because for me, at least with my glamp site being in upstate New York, we get a lot of city folk, a lot of people who aren't, very outdoorsy. So those guests don't want to be too far away from civilization. I personally think most people who go glamping, at least in my region, if I was out in Seattle or Washington, it would be very different. People that go glamping out there are, outdoor enthusiasts. For me, I consider it as people who want to cosplay being a lumberjack. They want it not too hard, not too easy, right in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. I wrote that down. Goldilocks zone. That's actually kind of a deep thought, because I think us glamping enthusiasts or glamping operators do talk about really where are we going to position ourselves. Yeah, I'm close to the hiking trails and amphitheaters and some tourist areas. So I would be really the former you were talking about. You're the latter, where the destination is the place. Yep. But actually it's not too far out. So I like that. The Goldilocks zone, just far enough out to enjoy yourself, but close enough to where if you really want to stay close to stuff, you can be. Okay.
Absolutely.
And now that's your A-frame that you built out there. That's when you say cabin, that was an A-frame. Can you describe that A-frame that you built? And did you build it? I'm curious if you actually were swinging the hammer or how that all came about.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an A-frame cabin. It's 149 square feet, very tiny cabin. The goal of that is to skirt by needing a lot of the permits. If it was 150 or 151, it would have been a lot more of a headache for me to build and to get permitted, etc. I also did something very weird. I purchased a cabin kit off of the internet. And I say it in the most sketchiest way because it's hilarious that I bought a cabin off the internet and it got delivered in the mail. But that's essentially what exactly happened. The cabin kit it's a prefab. So it was laser cut, every piece of wood, and it arrived on, I think, 4 to 5 pallets right on my land, like right at the doorstep, but it was just raw land. So at that point, I had to move, I think it was over 400 pieces. They sent everything. I mean, the door, the key, the windows, everything was sent over to us. And we literally had to assemble it as if it was a large Lego set.
Like an IKEA desk. You just put it together. Did it didn't have a bathroom in it? It was just actually the A-frame hut, or I say a hut.
Yeah.
But, okay. Wow.
Yeah, no, it didn't have a bathroom. It didn't have anything really. It was very barren. But what it did have was a lot of charm and character. It looked Instagrammable from the start, right?
I've seen pictures. In fact, if I put this on, I will put this on YouTube. I'll slip some pictures in there. So if you're listening on or watching on YouTube, you'll see it. And if you're driving down the road, just imagine this beautiful A-frame, black A-frame. I love it.
Yeah, and it was, if you're driving down the road, you can imagine a sea of green, just with this very just this large black A-frame from the front. And the back is, I think, 40 feet tall, all triangle windows.
Time for a glamping glamercial.
Hey, I'm Chris Jeub, the hunting guy, glamping guy, and I want to share a story with you. It's how I turned a simple idea into a business that gives me freedom and fulfillment, and I want to do the same thing for you. Back in 2019, I popped an old hunting tent in my backyard. Nothing fancy. It was just me trying to recapture the feeling I always get when heading into the mountains with my family, enjoying the nature and the beauty and everything. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was onto something huge. It sparked an idea, a dream of creating an outdoor experience that I could share with people like you, while also building a business that could support my family. And now I operate a thriving glamping business called Monument Glamping. We've got luxury tents, container homes, and other unique stays in one of the most beautiful parts of the country. But the best part of this business is that it didn't tie me down. In fact, it's giving me more freedom and fulfillment than I've ever thought possible. I still get to head out in the mountains just like the good old days. You can build something that not only generates income, but also lets you live the life that you want. For me, that means spending time with my family up in the mountains, like we did just recently in our hunting trip. Still got the threads on now. This kind of fulfillment is what drives me, and I want to help you do the same. If you've got a piece of land or have ever dreamed of turning into something that can give you life on your terms, I've got great news for you. On Monday, October 21st, I'm launching a free course called Easy Entry to a Glamping Business. It's free to join, and I'm going to cover the essentials. Just imagine running your own glamping business, hosting guests from all over, creating amazing outdoor experiences for them, and still having the freedom to do what you love, whether that's hunting trips, family time, or even traveling. Class starts October 21st, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. But if you did miss it and you're watching this video after October 21st, I'm sorry, get on the waiting list because you'll want to catch me next time. I don't have time to teach this class 24/7 because I have my glamping operation to run and I only have this open for a short time. So whether you're just thinking about glamping or you're being curious for a while, this course is your starting point and it's risk-free and absolutely free. So go to glampingguy.com/easy and we'll start building your glamping dream.
It's a very striking, and I know, I don't know if you cringe at this type of stuff. I do, the term Instagrammable, but I feel like we have to lean into the fact that this is just the way of the world of today. Yeah. And this is the way that it has always been. People have been taking photos since people were afraid of taking photos and thinking they were going to steal your soul, right? So people like to have memories and just lean into it. So when I saw the A-frame, I decided that, you know what, that looks very pretty. That is something that people want to stay at. And I thought to myself, that is half the battle. If you can win that, that's, you will win in this business. Because I do believe that we're in the business of selling memories, not nights, not stays, not beds. People want to go and do something different. They wanted to stay at a regular place. They would go stay at the Marriott. But no, they're glamping. They want to do something cool.
Yep. And that's why I raised my prices just above what a hotel would be when I'm really even in the middle of the week or something. When I drop down into the hotel range, I'm just really people just looking for a cheap stay. And then that's a whole different, that's a whole different type of guest. So yeah. Okay. So you have this A-frame. Do you have any other out there? Or is that the A-frame the only thing out there? And that 3 acres is pretty big. You could put more on. Do you have any more?
Yeah, no. So as of right now, I just have the A-frame. I bought the land barren. And earlier you talked about the fact that interest rates were low back then. I'm like so weird. I tried my hardest not to have almost any debt. So I actually bought the land raw. And then the thing that people never talk about, and I'm going to say this next part. So I just want everyone listening to know, I don't say this because I'm a little young. I grow up in the flex and bling bling era. None of this is bling bling, but what this is to peel the curtain back and to talk about brass tacks. So for me at the time, I was thinking, stay small and keep it all. So I bought my 3.5 acres of land for $15,000, and I actually paid cash. I just saved up. I drove, the car that I was driving at the time was a 10-year-old Mini Cooper. I loved it, rode it till the wheels fell off. So I bought the land for about $15,000 cash. At the time, I also had to install a roadway for people to get up to the cabin. That was about $2,000 to $5,000. And then I also had to install electricity. So that was about 10 right there. And then the cabin, right? So for me, it was just like, oof, I'm not made of money. And all of that was cash. I didn't want to take out any loans for something so volatile at the time. As you said, this asset class is growing. And at the time, it was just a very big, scary thing for me. So as of right now, the cabin is the only thing I have on it. But as you said, there's obviously plans. I can fit so many of these cabins, especially at the square footage that I'm at right now. But yeah,
so I did the math a little bit in my
there.
head. So you spent $50,000 or $60,000, all said and done. Now you own it. You've been operating it since 2020-ish. And is that right? Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's accurate. That's probably on the low end, if we're just being honest, because that doesn't factor in the cabin, the sleepless nights, my fiance asking me why I'm waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, living in New York City because I have to drive up to the cabin. But yeah. That's
the priceless sweat equity that everyone talks about, the sweat equity. But no, if I could meditate on that a little bit, because I'm going through a change right now, because there's so many in the glamping world, or the short-term rental world, the real estate world is all about managing debt and going into debt, deep into debt. And I did that. I didn't go deep into debt, but I did take out a second mortgage and stuff, and that financed my first phase. But that was painful. And now I've got this. I'll just tell you, $200,000 in debt. I feel like that was phase one. And now I've contemplated going into further debt to do that second phase, or it might be like the fifth or sixth phase, to develop what I have right now. And I'm taking a step back, Jamie, and going, you know what? I don't know if I need to build it so quickly. I can do this debt-free, or as much closer to debt-free than I did my early stages, because I felt the pain of having that debt burden to pay off every month is like it could be suffocating. And this last summer really was a summer of me working hard to pay down kind of the stupid debt, the credit cards and stuff like that, getting those down, getting them out of the way. Now I've got low interest not credit cards, but low interest loans that are still a burden. But I'm starting to entertain. I'm starting to think like Dave Ramsey here, and thinking, boy, wouldn't it be nice if I was debt free? Because boy, what the freedom I would have if I was debt free. So I'm actually pivoting, and a lot of my course material. I'm rewriting my course material right now, because a lot of my course material is going to emphasize this. Because, like I said, so many in the real estate world, as well as the glamping world, are all into raising capital this, raising capital that. What that means is going to debt. Go ahead and elaborate. I think we're on the same track here.
Absolutely. And I mean, to each their own, different strokes for different folks. I believe, so the internet is a scary place. And I'm a guy who's not afraid of much. So with that being said, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that a lot of people are standing up on soapbox and telling individuals who don't have a lot of experience in a certain field to raise up as much debt as possible to try their hand at something new, right? Let's say that you have been a baker your entire life. Absolutely, man. If you've been a baker your entire life and you are the top baker in your area, in your community, and you have a ton of experience, go drum up some of that good whatever type of debt and try your hand and make a big swing. But if you're somebody who doesn't have a ton of information, and information is scarce, and that's why I started my YouTube channel, Keep It Tiny, and that's why someone like Chris Jeub, who is has been a teacher for so many years and is obviously good at this type of stuff and is willing to take their time to give the information, those things are very helpful. And when I started my glamping business, that's why I accidentally started my YouTube channel, because I said, there's none of this information is out there. And I'm very big on, passing along the information that I know. So yeah, for me personally, I'm like I said, I'm not afraid of much. I'm afraid of debt. Okay, there's a couple of things that you cannot beat. The IRS tax court, they win every time. So yeah.
Well, you truly have an asset. You have a real asset. You have a piece of land with a nice cabin on it, and you rent it out, and you're making money on it. And so So that's an asset. If you were in debt for that asset and you're paying off a debtor to keep that thing running,
Absolutely.
You're just an employee, really. You're just working for the bank, and so that's
I mean, it's harsh, but it's true, and that's what I think to myself. I left the corporate world to no longer be quote unquote enslaved to anybody else or to anything else, right? So that being said, and also let's talk about why it's a smarter move for the individual. I call it stay small and keep it all. When the money comes in, it goes straight to me. I get the lion's share, not the bank or anyone else. And then let's break it down on another note. As of right now, and again, I like to talk about numbers because I think if you're talking about business and you don't talk about numbers, you're just talking about ideas. So let's dig into some more of my personal numbers. And as of right now, to keep my land up and running, I have to pay my property tax, which is extremely low because it is a small cabin in the middle of nowhere. And that's about 700, 800-ish a year. And then I have to pay the internet service. So that's about 120 a month. And it doesn't take up that much. Oh, absolutely.
That's some of that same bill. But yeah.
Yes. So you hear 120. Everybody who has Starlink says, "Oh, I know that. I've seen that on my balance sheet." So then I pay the internet, and then I pay the electricity, which is about $40-50 a month because it's 149 square feet. How much AC do you think it takes to heat or cool that down? So I run me personally, I don't get to be on the cover of magazines. I don't get to be held, but at the end of, because I don't have the largest and sexiest property, but I personally think you open up my balance sheet, I got a really sexy business, as you said, because, I am not in business for anybody else. It all comes straight to me. So it really is choosing what you want to do in this world, and what type of business do you want to have.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I hesitate to do this because the guy might be watching, but let me just share with you the story. I met somebody who's kind of popular in the whole real estate world, and he was explaining how he sold his property for several millions of dollars this last year. And I was pretty impressed. I was like, wow. Yeah. So this glamping operation sold for several $1 million. And he ended up walking away with just shy of $1 million. And I went, that gave me pause, Jamie, because I was like, okay, mine's not several $1 million. Okay. But I could walk away with $1 million if I liquidated right now. And I was thinking to myself, okay, here's this big shot, really, and really with this but after he paid off all his partners, paid off all his banks, paid off all his debt and stuff like that, he walked away with just shy of $1 million. And I'm like, that's me, but I would walk away with maybe like 70% of inequity, and so I'm still disturbed by the 30%, but that at least I would have that much in value, and that's the kind of position, that's the kind of exit strategy that I want to plan for now. And so
exactly,
it sounds like that's what you're doing. Yeah, you could sell it, and you'd probably walk away with a lot more percentage wise than even the big dog here.
Yeah, there's no debt that has to be paid off prior. My partner is my fiance in God. So that's all there is. It's a very easy conversation to be had, and that's exactly, because from the outside looking in, if you see somebody propped up on a pedestal and there's so many different things going on and it all looks fine and dandy, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if that is your personal goal. It's all about what you want to be and what you want to build. For me, though, I always knew that I wanted to build something that I controlled, that I owned, and was a smart move. I personally, because outside of glamping, I think a lot of people who start glamping businesses, Airbnbs, short-term rentals, what have you, we're just people with entrepreneurial mindsets, right? Yeah. So, I'd be lying.
We're hospitable, nice people. We're just the people enjoy us.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. You're not going to go far unless you have that side. You could be as much of an entrepreneur as possible. Your business is going to tank. In this hospitality business, if you don't have the hospitality side to you. So I'd be lying if I said, my glamping business is the only business that I have going on. But at the end of the day, for me personally, I like businesses that make sense. If I talk to my nephew or my niece and I say, this is my business, and they ever have to ask me, so how do you make money? Nah, I'm good. or if they're asking me, well, how did you do this or how did you do that? If you have to say, well, then I leveraged this or then did that and I did that. For me personally, I just like things that are very easy and straightforward, just because I think, as you said, they're easy to get in, they're easy to get out of, they're easy to maneuver. So yeah, just be fearful and mindful of not building up a jail cell for yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah. Very wise. Very wise. Very wise, young man. You got a lot going for yourself. Okay, so you started as an arbitrage rental. You went to the 3 acres and built this the debt-free A-frame that you're renting out today. But you have some other big things going on. Do you want to? I didn't even ask you if you wanted to share it. You said you were hiding under the radar and still flying under the radar right now, getting things done. Do you want to share that with the guests?
Absolutely. For someone who's gotten me personally 30, 40, 50,000 views on my YouTube channel, I always will spill the beans for you. That's why I'm here. But so for me, I've just put my head in the sand just because a lot of the times I've done consultations before in the past. I don't do them anymore, where I'm talking to people who one-on-one starting glamping businesses. When I talk to them, I ask them at the beginning, tell me what you want to build, and then tell me that idea that you want to build that you don't tell people. And what that is you protecting your life, this little light of mine, right? That's you protecting your life. Tell me your grandiose goal. Everyone is worried about what happens if I fall, right? You're at a cliff. What happens if I fall? I ask people, what happens if you fly, right? What happens if you accidentally take that jump and you just take off? Are you ready for that? Or have you planned for that? So for me in my business, my glamp site in upstate New York was always just one stride. I'm not even going to call it the penultimate step because I hope that there's more in the future for me. But that is what I set up to get me to where I am today, where now I've purchased another piece of property in upstate New York. It's right here in the Catskill Mountains. And I purchased the Moonlight Lodge, and I am redoing it and building it up as Wynne Social Club. So I always had this goal of building an interconnected hospitality group. And by group, I mean just me. And
that's what your shirt says. Oh, I just noticed that your Wynne Social Club in Catskill Mountains. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. My goal or idea is to build a bit of a portfolio. And the goal of the portfolio is more to be experimental and experiential, if that is even a word. You're the educator, so you can tell me if that's true or false. But the goal is
experiential. Yeah. I think that's what you mean.
So the goal is to build something where it's, again, a destination. It's cool. It's different. I grew up, like I said, right outside of New York City. So a lot of the short-term rental plays in this area are very rustic, very, even farmhousey, like that type of thing, even the more traditional real estate plays. Well, what happens if there's some color? What happens, let me take a step back because we're in one of my suites. What happens if there's like a little bit of, thank you. What happens if there's a little bit of energy, some life? So my goal is to build something that would make more sense in Mexico City or Seoul, South Korea, right here in the Catskill Mountains. That's a little bit more energy, a little bit more flair. And yeah, the goal, and also, from a business standpoint, because that's kind of like the marketing outward side, right? From a business standpoint, the goal is to be able to, there's a lot of things that go good for you when you have volume and density. If I remove 2 of your doors or 2 of your like, let's say that you lose the ability to have 2 different parties at your space, all of a sudden your numbers look different, right? But if I give you 2 more, your numbers are great. So for me, it's the density of having multiple doors right here in one location, as well as my cabin elsewhere. And also, it's so hard to do things one time. So hard to find reliable cleaners. It's so hard to find a reliable handyman. Well, if I have the density, then I don't have to do it again. And that one handyman now gets to work on multiple locations. It's better for me, and it's better for me, or it's better for the handyman or woman who gets more business. And now I get to go up the totem pole. So when I call he or she, they pick up a little bit faster because they know I have so much more business for them. And then what it looks like from the other side is the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi password is the same in all of the locations. The scents that I use inside is the same in all the locations. So from the guest standpoint, it's just interconnected. It's easy. Yeah, so that's my grandiose goal that I've just kicked off.
So, and are you renting it out right now?
Oh, absolutely, man. You look,
it looks
you know
very
me.
finished in the background. Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
No,
explain the
Yeah.
place. How many doors? What's the experience for the person who comes? And we'll get to the website here in a little bit. But
Sure.
explain the place. Explain your the upstate Moonlight Lodge that you purchased. Now it's Wynne Social Club.
Yeah. So Wynne Social Club, I believe it's going to be a destination, or it currently is a destination here in the Catskill Mountains. But I mean, it's a destination, but you have to make people want to go. So I
should ask before you get into it. Was it distressed? I mean, did you do a lot of remodeling and make it a nicer place?
So I believe in the stupid tax. So someone else did the remodeling and all of that right before I purchased it, right? Just because a lot of people take bigger swings than they can handle. You know what I mean? I'm not going to fight somebody 3x my size. Maybe my size. Okay, cool. We can go one-on-one, right? So, going into this, I was a digital marketer. I know my strengths and weaknesses. I'm good at processes and hospitality, etc. I'm not good at complete rehabs. So when I was looking for my next project, a lot of the times people were telling me like, oh, you could do this or you could do that and build this up and build. I'm like, nah, man, the floor is uneven. I don't want to be here. So no, I didn't buy it in too much distress. Okay. One of the main issues that I had with the location right after purchasing it is the fact that it would look good for me. It would look good for my mother, God bless her. And it would be a great place for my grandmother, God bless her soul, right? Now, here's the problem with that isn't what I'm going for. I think that hospitalities and destinations, the goal is to build something where someone either loves it or hates it, because that's how you get the people that love it so much more. So it was kind of like old and run down in here, and it was like the cookie cutter IKEA everything. So I had to add some life to it. But we are up and running, and right when I purchased it, I was able to get guests inside, and I'm slowly making the place better and better and better month by month.
More like interior design type of stuff instead of like overhaul remodeling. Yeah. It's interior design. So
absolutely,
that's what you mean, right? Am I wrong there? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
How many doors is it?
So we have 3 doors here.
3 doors. Is there like a central place that people can gather, and is that the experience?
We got about 2 football fields in the backyard. And in a summer or 2 summers, we have plans to build a sauna. We have plans to build a large tent that we're going to turn into a movie theater. And what else do we have cooking up? We just have a lot of ideas. And we're like getting ready to take the big swing. But inside of this space, I think that there's a lot of surprise and delight that could be had when you mix things together. I think when people are looking to get away from their space, there's tactile experiences that can be done, right? And now let me get off my high horse and stop saying big words that sound cool and get down to brass tacks, right? There is a $100 Fujifilm camera that you can purchase, right? And you take a photo and the photo comes out immediately. That's a fun experience. It's a quirky thing. I enjoy that camera. Anytime I take it to a house party, people love to play around with it because people haven't experienced that and used that. We have that here for guests, right? When guests let me know that they are celebrating something, we might have champagne here for them waiting. There are a lot of different things for people to play around with. I've scoured the world, right? I have magazines in here from every language, right? So it's just a different place that's catering to that crowd that wants a bit of an experience. And I really did get inspired by a lot of my personal travels and the places that I like to stay at, where there's just a lot of things to do. We have a lot of different room sprays. Right next to the bedroom, there is a nighttime spray from this really fun company that you're supposed to spray in the bed, and the eucalyptus oils and etc. help you sleep better. So that's what I'm doing here, is to really surprise and delight. The more time that you spend within this suite, the more cool things you're going to notice, you're going to play around with, and we encourage our guests to touch and play them. There is no Bluetooth speaker here. We have a retro CD set, and I literally curated, we have about 20 different CDs from Tony Braxton to the Beatles. So that's kind of the vibe and the energy that I'm doing here. I believe it is just like glamping. It is different. It's an experience. It's Instagrammable. And I think it's a asset class or a business play that a lot of people aren't doing that they should be doing. And all of these ideas can and should be 100% ripped, stolen, and put into your glam site and everyone who's listening's glam site. Like I do believe in that. I mean, we have a projector up by the bedroom so people can watch movies and TVs on the wall. These are all cool experiences that people don't do often. And this is what, when they walk away from your space, that they say to themselves, wow, like remember when we did this or when we did that, the things that makes them remember their stay. The goal for me is to never just be, remember that time we stayed in that tiny house. Remember that time that we stayed in that A-frame. That was cute. It was supposed to be, remember when we stayed at Wynne Social Club. We should go back there. That's the goal of what I'm doing and the goal of what I think a lot of people who are doing hospitality should be focused on. Sorry, I'm getting fired up.
No. It sounds awesome, because I can look back at the best Airbnbs that I've stayed at. I'm thinking of one in particular. It was I was taking my kids to a tournament, so we just needed a place to stay while we were competing in this speech and debate tournament with my kids, and we found one. But they had all this nostalgic stuff. I remember staying up and playing on the Atari, like with the joystick, kind of like playing the Atari. And I was like getting into it. I was tearing it with my kids because they thought I was weird doing, what is this box thing? This Atari. And I was like that. And it had that stuff all over the house. And it was, really, really fun. So it sounds like what you're geeking out, what you're nerding out on is experiential stay in this lodge that you purchased and getting into it and loving it. And of course your guests will love it too.
Absolutely. We have a fashion magazine from Korea right over there. And at the same time, I also have a 1951 Sports Illustrated magazine. So it's just like everybody from all walks of life. If you're the type of individual who gets inspired by art, culture, etc., that's what I'm trying to build, is a safe haven in a place that makes people really say like, wow, that was an experience like none other. And that's the crux of hospitality, glamping, etc., is making someone walk away and saying, wow, that was an experience like none other.
It is. Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. Oh, wow. That's cool. Are you living on a place? Are you living there, or are you living close by?
Yeah. We've moved close by as we work on the place, and because just being in the city, when I was building my cabin upstate, I mean, I would literally wake up at 4 a.m., drive 3.5 hours, because the cabin is much further away from New York City. Wynne Social Club is only like 2 hours away. The cabin is like 3.5 hours out of New York City. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m., drive all the way up there, build the cabin, work on it for like 2-3 days, then drive all the way down to the city to be back in time for work on Monday. So it was just too much.
Okay, well, good. Glad you're living closer to it. And is your fiance involved in all this, or is she just like, yeah, whatever, Jamie, you do you?
So she's a software engineer. She's been very helpful. She's definitely been my rock with all of it. But I'll be honest, we wouldn't be where we are, in terms of doing these types of plays if I wasn't the one who's like kind of moving the needle, just because she actually is the reason that I quit my job. When it was time, she was like, look, I got you. No matter what happens, quit, do your thing, right? But in terms of the day-to-day operations, she helps more on the back end. She helps with the finance aspects of things, like the taxes, the numbers, etc. But no, she's more focused on her career, which I love. Yeah, I think that's really cool.
No, I find every glamping operator kind of they figure it out themselves. They figure it out, especially couples. They figure out how each of them bless it. Wow. So you've got the arbitrage rental, the 3 acres and cabin. Now you're in the Catskills with a lodge. Do you have anything in your future that you see happening and shaking out? Where are you going to end up, or where are you going to?
Yeah. I think what I'm focused on right now is this newer project. But to me, the end goal is a world where someone says, hey, have you heard of Wynne Social Club? And someone else says, yeah, I stayed at one. And they say, which one? Did you stay at the Aframe Cabin in further upstate? Did you stay at the that building, the lodge, or did you stay at the one in Philadelphia? or did you stay at the one in Vermont? And it's just an easy world where people can like kind
Sounds
of
like
move from
you're on your
space
way to
space.
franchising this idea.
So I probably will never use the F word just because, again, it's start small, keep it all. And I'm a little too worried about, like hoping that someone else was able to do my vision for me. But I certainly want to, like, in that ilk of it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the goal is that there's more of these, and the through line throughout all of them is the fact that it heavily leans into experience. When I first purchased my glamping cabin, it was doing great. When I put the purple lights and I set more of a vibe and an energy, it was doing even better. So that's, for me, I feel like this is my lane, and this is for me to continue to kind of do cool and experimental items. So yeah, that's the goal, is to continue to get more short-term rental real estate, absolutely, and to really infuse it with a little bit of energy.
Yeah, no. Well, my audience is going to really get a lot out of this one.
I hope so. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Your values. I really like your debt-free kind of feeling and direction. Your keep it small or keep it tiny, obviously, is the name of your podcast. The stay small, keep it all. You have some values that are really going to take you far, and as it already has. And that's honestly, I think my podcasters are going to listen to it and go, wow, I could take a bit of this medicine as I'm building my glamping operation, wherever that may be. So
absolutely. It's just, there's a hospitality aspect of it, and there's also just the business mindset of it. And I think that a lot of people focus and spend a lot of time and energy on Airbnb and the hospitality side, and I'm going to have these types of sheets, and all of that is extremely important. But what type of business owner and operator do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in the future? I think that's equally as important. And I think that's the part that a lot of people just jump right over. They're more focused on who's going to clean my cabin rather than, what type of business do I want to run?
Yeah. Working on the business or working in the business, or we're doing both for a lot of our time, but working on the business is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, just last week, I had a car full of towels in the backseat of and I was taking them to get embroidered with the Wynne Social Club name on them, so that guests have branded towels here at this location. But yeah, we have to do it all. I'm looking at spreadsheets one day, then the next day I'm walking the space and I'm fluffing a pillow or two just because they're not to my liking. So you really do have to be, kind of all in or obsessed about your business and what's going on from every aspect of it.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it exactly. Well, thank you. Now, how can people find you? How they can find the place they want to stay, and go give me a list of how my guests can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to wynnSocialClub.com to see kind of what we have going on and what's going to be going on in the future, and to stay at these locations that I have, as well as on Instagram, Wynne Social Club on Instagram. And also, if they'd like to hear a little bit more, I guess, of my mindset when it comes to glamping businesses, they can check out Keep It Tiny here on YouTube, or wherever they're listening. They can go over to YouTube, check out Keep It Tiny. And that's kind of the back catalog. So they can kind of start from the very beginning and see me even build my cabin, and see me get started and see me talk to guests and talk to other people. So I think that's what it's all about. And then aside from that, if they don't want to hear me talk, they should check you out. They should check out anybody in the space. They should be listening to all of us, because I know for me, I was obsessed with obtaining the information and learning. Yeah. This space is moving so fast. Yeah. This space is so new that there's not a lot of information out there. There's not enough of information out there. Not, so they should just be looking at everybody. Yep. Hopefully me, hopefully you, but just find somebody or multiple people's and just become obsessed with it. And that's the only way that they'll be successful.
Yeah. And if you want to see, they shut down his 90K plus a year glamping business, what he did next, I'll have a link to that, because that's the podcast that I was on. Boy, a year and a half ago. That was a long time ago. Lots changed since then. Yeah. But that was right when I was coming out of my big fight with the county and one neighbor, and it's been quite the drama. But I'm in a very good place right now, and I hope that
Yeah.
for all of our guests.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it just takes time. And most people, the problem with a lot of the media today is everything has to be sensationalized. So you hear a lot of stories about the overnight successes, right? But then, the people that grinded it out for multiple years and the people that, were small and kind of built something up, or the people that, suffered setbacks and didn't get over them over a period of time or what have you, they don't get talked about much. So I think that a lot of people think that, knock on the door, they're trying to shut down, run away. And it's just like, you were brave enough to say, no, let's see what happens if I push back.
That's right. That's right. And we do have to grind it. We are in the business and we're grinding the business and working hard, but boy, do I love it. It's not like you love it too. It's like, I might as well be grinding something I love instead of something
absolutely. Yeah. Me personally, I was always going to work hard. So, for me, it was just like, what happens if I work hard on my vision? And that's kind of where we are today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie. This was a wonderful, wonderful podcast. Thank you for being on it. And we'll stay in touch. We might do a follow-up with you in a couple of years when you have a whole bunch of these Wynne socials going on.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. I haven't posted on any of my social channels in like a year or 2 years. So you really kind of pulled me out of retirement. I'm Jordan coming back. So yeah, thanks for the experience. And this is actually the first podcast or outside piece of media that I've ever done. So this was really fun.
Oh, wow. All right. For me. Well, glad to have you on the Glamping Guy Podcast, Jamie. You take care.
Thanks. You too.
That was an inspiring conversation with Jamie Esperance, and I hope you took as much away from it as I did. Jamie's focus on simplicity, whether it's a cozy Aframe Cabin or his podcast, Keep It Tiny, is a reminder to all of us that success does not need to be very complicated. What really stood out to me, as I'm sure it did you, was Jamie's entrepreneurial sense. It's this commitment to building unique, memorable experiences that make him a standout member of the glamping community. I hope you found today's episode thought-provoking and inspiring just as I did. And be sure to check out Jamie's Wynne Social Club and learn more about his journey. Until next time, happy glamping.